Hey y'all, welcome back. My name is Dave Good. I teach people how to play the saxophone. Welcome. I'm working out of the home studio again today. Uh, Not because I'm lazy, but because it's a little more comfortable today than out in the garage. A little bit cold out here in the East County of San Diego. A little drizzle. So I thought, well, just keep it in the house today. Dogs on the couch here. You can't see them, but they're in front of me. Been out of commission for a while with allergies. Oh my God. It's that time of year here in the Southland here. And it just, they have kicked me hard. How do you get back onto your horn after you've been besieged with allergies and the coughing and the sneezing and the weirdness that Benadryl brings into your life, right? I mean, it makes you able to breathe and all that, but man, do you get weird. Um, well, drink a lot of coffee. That's my solution. Long tones. Grab the horn and just, work on long tones. Build up your capacity again because, your chops get a little bit tired, your lungs get a little bit tired. Last week the band was here and we bass, drums, guitar, and I was really grateful that Amin was here on Barry sax because man, I couldn't, after a couple of weeks off, I could not blow my horn, and I was so grateful he was here to play along and to carry the freight. And so anyway, a little bit at the time we get back into shape. But yeah, if you're having the same problems, just think about it. Doing some long tones, just long tones, and let nature take its course, right? You don't have to get back into top shape right off the bat. So today I wanted to talk about, and I'm going to ramble a bit. This might go a little bit long, and I know some of you have written in and said, "Good God, this guy talks forever." And I kind of do, but it's my prerogative, and it's the channel, and it's the whole thing that we're doing here. Is for some of you, you might enjoy this. Others of you will just zone out. But negative comments, yeah, I cut that. I cut all that stuff out. If you got something negative to say or constructive to say, you send it to me in an email package. davegoodsax@gmail.com. davegoodsax@gmail.com. So anyway, a couple days ago, pal of mine plays jazz piano. We could safely call him a jazz snob. He is not an improviser, but he's a very good technical. He can read and he can play chords and he knows stuff. Bill Evans came along and he got stuck there, and that's where he lives. Anything without a flat nine or a raised 11, he doesn't like it. Doesn't like pop music, Beatles, nah. Doesn't like jazz, blues, no. And certain kinds of jazz. He's real happy in about the 1962. And he's in his 70s, all right? That gives you a little bit of a background about him, all right? And I kind of understand that. He is very dark about the future of jazz music, and had dug up an interview with a famous sax player who was talking again the same age bag, was talking about how young people today just play video games and they get music for free and they don't care about music. And I thought, yeah, okay. I mean, as if, excuse me, as if it was their fault, right? As if any of that was their fault. Well, let me just preface this by saying young people didn't invent video games or online gaming. Young people didn't invent any of that, right? Our younger people, the Generation X, right? I'm a baby boomer. You can probably tell. I'm maybe even older than any of you watching, but the baby boomer generation, that would be me, was an entirely different generation than the Gen X kids that are coming up today. They have never not had a computer. They have never not had a smartphone. They have never not had video gaming. Now, have you played video games? Come on, tell the truth. Of course you have. They're kind of addicting, aren't they? My girlfriend and her daughter are both addicted just to Facebook. I mean, you can't go anywhere. They don't pull the phones out and they sit around and they're checking out Facebook. I mean, Facebook can be very addicting, as can, excuse me, TikTok, any of the platforms, Instagram, any of that, very addicting. They have, and they make them to be addicting. They make them to catch your attention and to keep it for a long time because your attention is a commodity, right? And so it's not the fault of the younger generation. they have always had this. They use it. They're addicted, and it's kind of cool. I mean, I can spend a lot of time on Facebook as well. Oh, yeah, all right. Anyway, I digress. I understand exactly what this is doing to music. This is making the learning of music almost an anomaly. Any kid who comes to my studio is not really the norm anymore. All right. I work with a lot of young people, a lot of young students, and I go to schools and I have little classes, master classes, or section rehearsals or whatever at schools. And quite often, the first question I'll ask is, "Who's listening to music in here?" And no hands go up. It's not something that the younger audience does. Who's listening to music? Not very many people. Even kids that are playing instruments aren't listening to music, right? I'll even ask who can name a sax player? And again, no hands go up. It's not part of the lexicon. It's not part of the culture of today. Now, when I was a kid, back back when there were dinosaurs, the nice ones that ate plants, the meat eaters were gone by then. But back when I was a kid, music was so important to all of us. I was of that generation when the Beatles came along. There were no Beatles, and then there were Beatles, right? And after the Beatles, there were garage bands up and down the street, guitar stores up and down the boulevard. I mean, life just changed, and music was so important to us at that point in time that we carried albums, record albums. You know what that is? An album. Here, look. It's a record player behind me. Look at that. That's it. Here's Ace Cannon. This is a record, kids. The record's on the turntable because I was listening to it. But we would carry these to school, and they kind of defined our friends. You were in the Beatles camp or the Rolling Stones camp, one or the other, right? Until Crosby, Stills, and Nash came along. But still, that's what we did. File sharing was going to the record store, buying a record, and racing back home to share that with your pals. Whatever it was, the latest Motown, the latest Beatles. I can't remember how crazy it was. I mean, we had little records too, 45s. And they were affordable. They were just a little bit bigger than CDs. But, I had a friend who had a 45 record player, could play those little records. And we would sit and listen to the latest Beatles 45s, or we would listen to the, Motown, whatever was coming out, whatever was cool. We would get that. That was file sharing back in the day, and music was so important. We were the first generation of concerts, of all day concerts, and we'd go to the Balboa Stadium and pay $3 to hear. Got Chicago, the Doobie Brothers, Santana, all headliner bands. No bad bands on the, and that would be a day. That would be something we would do all day long. Radio played records, the records that you would go and eventually buy at the record store. Music, everybody that I knew got into music. Kids got into music, got guitars, amps, whatever, and started bands. It was the most important thing that we could do. Everybody that I knew loved music. Everybody. The saxophone. How did I end up with a saxophone? That's a great question. I think I wanted to play the clarinet, but in school, you had to be in the school band or be in an art class or be a choir or something like that. It was an elective, right? And in the fourth grade, an alto sax fell from the sky and landed in my lap, and I never looked back. By the sixth grade, we had started our own surf rock band. Surf rock was big. If you don't know what that is, look it up. Surf rock. Anyway, and it was the coolest thing was to practice with my homies, after school in the garage, the garage band thing. And I really haven't left the garage. Still have garage band happening here at the house. One day, I keep saying I'm going to do this. A lot of really, really cool musicians are coming over to play here in Dave's garage at my house in La Mesa. And one day I think we're going to get it together and maybe start live streaming some of those sessions. Yeah, go ahead, say, yeah, oh, Daryl's house. Oh, you're copying. Well, maybe, but it's Dave's garage, and we do different music here, and it's kind of fun, and I'd like to share that with you. An audience always, improves things, don't you think? So I think we're going to work the bugs out on that. Maybe in May or June. Okay, so anyway, two generations vastly different, right? And I ended up keeping the saxophone and creating a life in music. And I became the pop culture writer for The Reader and Orange County Weekly, and a variety of alt weekly, well, I guess you call them newspapers, right? And it just but I gotta say, at the end of the run, about 25, 26, 27 years into that, about 2018 or so, I'm having a lot of trouble, relating to the music that's coming out. And I'm thinking, I'm starting to become like my pal, the jazz snob. I don't understand this new music. Bands like Deerhoof, I mean, they got a following, but that music, and I realize at this point, that music is not for me. This is music that's made by young people who are hearing things and presenting them in a much different way, but it's valid. I don't get it, but it's valid. And it was hard to continue to do that job. And I understand that we can all kind of get stuck in place. We can get stuck in 1962. There's an entire jazz audience that's stuck in 1962. They are our grandparents, and they come into those jazz shows on walkers and with oxygen assist, and they listen to those old school jazz people. They go to the village, they go to the Blue Note or places like that, and listen to the old jazz. Well, there's new jazz that's happening that's crazy good and off the charts, but it's taking place in a form and in places where the older listeners don't go. I have so many young jazz students who come here, and they don't have any idea that there's a jazz station in this town or that there are jazz shows in this town. Why? Because they program to the older audiences. Most of the jazz teachers in my town teach bebop. They don't teach any other forms of the music. Um, but again, I digress. I've had coffee. The problem is that fewer and fewer younger people are coming to the instrument. They like to play video games. They like to do gaming. They like to watch YouTube videos about gaming. Imagine that. That's the new ethic that we have. And so when we have students who come to us, younger students, they're a bit of an anomaly. They don't fit in with the rest of what's going on. Or they do, and they listen to video game tracks or some of the new music that's coming out, and that's what they're hearing, and that's what they want to play. Marching band stuff, not so much. I mean, these are kind of programs that are shrinking. We're in a great period of change right now, and I would challenge all of you, if you could, to not be stuck at the altar of John Coltrane or Charlie Parker. There are so many bitchin' new sax players that are, just making great music. Tavon Pennicott. I'm thinking about Kamasi Washington. Think about, there's just a range of music that's really happening at this point in time, and it's happening in places that are not traditional. New York Times, look them up in March, published a story about the jazz that's happening in New York. I would presume it's happening in your city, wherever you live on the planet Earth. At this point, people are probably making music that will not relate to us old folks. It's not really for us, but it behooves us to think about that and not to be angry with the younger generation for using the tools and following the entertainment that they have. YouTube, great place. A lot of people have learned a lot of things, a lot of music off of YouTube. Are they able to play a song? Maybe not. They can play a lot of cool riffs, and hence the problem with YouTube, right? You go there, and it's almost a surgical strike. You go there to find what you want to find or what looks really cool at that moment. But again, to wrap this whole thing up at almost going on 15 minutes now, those of you who hung in there, thank you so much. I appreciate your time, your patronage. Some of you have found me on Venmo and made contributions. Oh, gosh, thank you so much. I teach here in San Diego. If you'd like to dig deep and have a private lesson, please come on. This is how I support myself. Got a studio right here at the house, out in the Dave's garage, and you can find more information about that by reaching out to me via email, davegoodsax@gmail.com. All one word, davegoodsax@gmail.com. Anyway, my life is improved because you're out there and you're watching and you've become a subscriber to the channel, and I've met so many of you, and met some real good friends. Finally, met somebody who actually has an Olds Ambassador tenor sax. I thought I had the last one on the planet Earth. Low serial number 37629. Well, there's somebody else with an Olds Ambassador out there too. Never would have connected had it not been for this channel. So thank you so much for being there and for supporting. And I just look forward to talking to you and your contributions. Any ideas for future programs, let me know. But the takeaway from this is don't blame younger people for not being into music and for using the technology that they didn't invent, but that is highly addictive and kind of fun. How do we continue as music teachers to bring new people into the fold? That's our challenge, isn't it? So if you're a teacher, if you're a player, if you're around young ears, we have to think about that. Do they want to learn how to play Fly Me to the Moon? Maybe not. I mean, is there value in learning that? Of course there is. But are there other forms of music that they want to hear and learn and perfect and have in their lives? Some, not all. Music is heading in a, I think maybe it's on the rocks at this point. Jazz listenership is incredibly small among some audiences. Is rock ever going to come back? I don't know. Great questions. Will we have a culture without music? Lord knows, I hope not. So in the meantime, blow it loud and proud. Get your horns out. Make some music. And thanks for being here. I'll see you again.